I went to a car meet recently with my friends, and we were just chilling, talking about our cars. It wasn't anything too crazy. And then suddenly there was a bypasser walking by who obviously had an interest in cars, and he came over and he started speaking to us. I just want to make this clear. I had no issue with the guy coming over. I don't think any of us did. And at first he seemed like a chill guy until he started criticizing everyone's car down to the highest possible detail. And look, if you're going to criticize my car, it's absolutely fine. I don't really have a problem with it. My car is far from perfect. It is far from perfect. And everyone has a right to have their own opinion. However, some of the comments he was making on our cars were just a bit, I don't know, it made the whole vibe just feel a little bit uncomfortable. And the funny part is we asked him what car he drove, and you'll never guess what he said. Basically, yeah, he didn't even have a car. He didn't even drive. So it was kind of, I mean, look, like I said before, everyone has a right to have their own opinion, but I feel like we all know that one person who has, a Honda Civic, a baseline eco box, like a Honda Fit or like a Honda Jazz or a Ford Focus or something. And then they criticize everybody's car the hardest. And it's like, sure, you can have that opinion. And also, yeah, we all start somewhere. I started off with a Honda Civic, and yeah, it's completely fine. I'm not saying that's the issue. However, you do sadly get the impression that it comes from a place of insecurity where, I was like it when I was younger, when I didn't have the best car. My first car was a Honda Civic, and I was definitely critical of other people's cars. But, I just had a Honda Civic. Especially when I didn't even have a car. You always find yourself, the most obsessed with specs and the most obsessed with how people's cars should look. When in reality, when you do buy your first project car or you do buy your first enthusiast car, you kind of respect that, you can't just pump, tens of thousands or thousands of pounds or whatever into a build. Like, it takes time and effort, and it's not going to be perfect in the first few years of ownership. And let's face it, they're probably just jealous or insecure of the current car situation they're in, so they're projecting by critiquing your car. However, I do feel like when they finally buy a car that has some significance to them, or that's something a little bit more interesting, then, they stop criticising other people's cars and they start to be a little bit more respectful. And I think it's just a way of car enthusiasts maturing. It's the evolution of a car enthusiast. But definitely an embarrassing trait among car enthusiasts. Like I said before, I do think you can mature out of it, but if you're over the age of 18 and doing this, it's not a good look. And just to clarify, constructive criticism is great, but I'm referring to just the negative criticism here. Let's also talk about something that's happened pretty recently at an event called SEMA, which is this big car event. You've probably heard of it. I don't really need to explain what SEMA is. But fake modifications or fake badges are bad enough, but when it comes to actual fake modifications, that's when you're taking it a step way too far. And obviously at SEMA this year, we had the fake Lamborghini V10 Miata, which, was circling to be this crazy car. And then a few days later, we all found out that it was indeed actually fake and it got towed away. And technically speaking, not all modifications are going to be real. Like, if you buy something that's purely cosmetic, of course it's not a functional modification, but I feel like, when you start putting fake engines in things, it's pretty bad. I do want to mainly refer to fake badges here because I think for me this is something that I have actually I've got to put my hand up and say that I have actually done this. It's the most embarrassing thing I've done as a car enthusiast, and I will forever regret it. You see, when I was 17 years old and I passed my driver's license, I bought myself an EP3 era Honda Civic. It was a 2003 Honda Civic, and yes, I put a Type R badge on it. I don't ask why, it was stupid, and I tried tricking my friends. It's really cringe, and I struggle to live with myself. Ever since I've done that, it's just awful. I will try and give myself the benefit of the doubt though. I was 17. But I do have to say, this is no excuse. Like, it's so dumb. For example, if you buy a BMW 3 Series and you put an M3 badge on that 3 Series, the only people who are going to appreciate a real M3 anyway are car enthusiasts. And car enthusiasts are going to be able to understand if it's a 3 Series or an M3. So you might as well just buy an M3, and I understand that everyone can't afford an M3, and you know the 3 Series is the more obtainable car, and if that's the case for you, then just, you know, own having a 3, like, accept the fact that it's a 3 Series, because, you know, if you've got something like a 330 Ci, it's still a really nice car to have, and you know, putting an M3 badge on that car is just going to make it look stupid, because I've spoken from experience here. It looks dumb. The funny part of this is it's not just the badge that makes it look like the higher trim version of that car. For example, you know, on topic of the M3, if you did buy a 3 Series and put an M3 badge on it, it's still going to look like a 3 Series, because it's not going to have the wider arches, it's not going to have the upgraded hood, it's not going to have, you know, the M3 side skirts and fenders. It's a completely different looking car. And I think what's just so funny about this is the only people who could tell the difference and understand if it's an M3 or not are actual car enthusiasts. So it doesn't even work anyway. It's because it's not going to impress anyone. It's definitely the most embarrassing thing I've done as a car guy, and I feel like if other people do this, it's not a good look. So we need to ban this. I think it's just a little bit embarrassing at the end of the day, and I think it's yet again something that I think younger car enthusiasts do. One thing I really can't stand, and maybe it is because I drive an MX-5, so I can't even be in the conversation for it, but people who want to race everyone. Obviously, sometimes in the car community, we like to see who can pull away faster from the lights, or the odd pull on the motorway or something. But there are some people out there who are just obsessed with racing every single car they come up against. It could genuinely be an old woman in a Toyota Yaris, and you know, they'll have something stupid like a Dodge Charger, or just something that's 10 times faster than the other person's car, but they'll still want to race. Maybe it's because I have an MX-5 and I don't understand what having a fast car is all about, but at the same time, I just don't think there's a need to race every single person you see. At the end of the day, we don't all have a car for the 0 to 60 time. Some of us have cars because they're better in the corners, or they're more capable off-road. These guys, I do think there's an element of spec sheet nerd to this, because they're obsessed with 0 to 60, they're obsessed with brake horsepower and all of these stats, where realistically it doesn't matter too much. I feel like it might just be a UK thing. I mean, it happened to me the other day. There was a BMW M135i who pulled up next to me at the lights, and he asked how much horsepower my car had, and obviously I said, probably barely 100, and then he was like, do you want to race? And I was like, well, you're gonna win. Like, there's no competition there. It's definitely a very common trait with German car owners in the UK, and I feel like over in the States, you guys maybe get it a lot with Dodge owners or Ford owners. I don't know, that's the impression I get from social media, but there's not a need to race everyone, and at times it is just a little bit embarrassing, especially when you're trying to race a grandma. There's no need. Okay, maybe a grandma is a little bit too far, but you get what I'm trying to say. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking anything away from people who enjoy 0 to 60 times. I love being in fast cars, and I think if there's one thing that my MX-5 doesn't give me, it's the fact that it's not particularly fast, and I wouldn't mind owning something a little bit faster. I have actually been looking at BMW M3s and a couple of other cars that are slightly quite a lot faster than my current car, because it's fun, it's very fun. But what I'm talking about is if you do have something like a BMW M3 and you're trying to race, I don't know, an MX-5 is a pretty good example. It just, you're gonna win, so there's just no point sometimes. It's probably one of the reasons why sleeper builds are appreciated so much, because I mean, there are some videos online where there's something like a Lamborghini facing against, say, for a Mark 1 MX-5. I promise I'll stop talking about MX-5s. I won't, but I'll try my best. But the Lamborghini obviously goes to race this Mark 1 MX-5 and gets completely smoked. I think there's also a Mustang or like a Camaro in the video as well. You probably know the one I'm talking about. But it's just satisfying knowing that Lamborghini owner spent a lot of money. I mean, the MX-5 probably spent a lot of money too, but it gives you a little feeling of satisfaction. I think it's been around 6 months since I've last uploaded a video on this channel, so it feels really good to be back, and I'm planning on doing a few different things this time, so it should be interesting to see how that goes. And if you are new, please subscribe, because I mean, I do car content, well, not all the time, but we will be doing it all the time, so definitely subscribe for that. And yeah, if you are already subscribed, thank you for sticking around, and I promise I will be uploading videos. You probably don't even care, but you know, just in case you do, I will be uploading videos again. So I've had a lot going on in my life in the past year, and I feel like now is a good time to kick the channel back off again. So I'm really excited for this, and yeah, hopefully we can make some good content along the way. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you in the next one. I'll catch you in a bit.